It's time for Ask the Mayor on this Thursday with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
Doug, good morning. What a beautiful morning.
Yeah, we've got a couple of ones here. Was that a baseball game last night? I think you were doing league, and man, talk about a great night last night, too.
It was. I think maybe that's our reward for weathering the few storms that we've had that rolled through.
Well, I'll tell you what, the last, across the entire nation, the last 2 weeks, I think I saw somebody had a report today that there's been, is it 12 or 13 straight days that a tornado has touched down somewhere in the U.S., which is kind of an amazing streak. You usually don't see that. But,
we still got the rest of May to get through.
Yeah, we're not. May is usually our peak tornado month in Nebraska, April, May, right in there.
Right.
So hope it's not a predictor of things.
Hope we're done.
Things to come.
That's exactly right.
That's for sure. Well, one thing that's been completed, another year of the Beatrice Clean City large item pickup campaign. Talking with Jason Moore just briefly yesterday, seemed like maybe trended a little bit lower on the numbers this year.
The numbers did trend down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think it was a really good week. I think just a couple of reminders when we do it next year. We do ask that people register early. And so if you called on Monday for a Wednesday pickup, it was probably too late because we ask that you register at least a week ahead of time. And that helps the guys run and figure out the routes and where you're going and how we distribute manpower. So it's a pretty easy thing to do. You could have called in. You could have do an online registration. So those are a couple of hints to keep in mind. I think it also worked out really well that we did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of in the same route of where the garbage the pickups go, because again, it's not something to pick up garbage or put boxes of stuff out that can fit in your trash cans. Those are kind of a weekly event, and so those are probably the two big areas that we need to continue to work on. But a lot of big items. Again, I think some people call it the Great Beatrice Swap Meet. We had a number of people that I think picked up a number of items that the city didn't have to, and if they can use it, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah. The other thing you mentioned on those items that can't be placed out, it seems like you made a real concerted effort, not just this year, but the past couple of years, to pound home that message, hey, it's for large items only, but I don't know that you'll ever solve that completely. There's always going to be a few violations out there.
And I don't think you will. I think that's just one of the things that we contend with. But at the end of the day, it helps all those large items find their way to the landfill instead of the county ditches.
Mm-hmm. As I was just in the course of driving to and from work and about during that 3 days, you did see some of the boxes of stuff that shouldn't be there. Actually saw a couple mattresses that were dropped at curbside, and they shouldn't have been. Those had to be taken out to the landfill. And I wasn't really sure, just driving to work today, it didn't look like there were a lot of leftover locations, but today's kind of a cleanup day in case there were.
Typically, we kind of have almost two kind of built in. Wednesday's usually the lightest day, and a lot of times if somebody got missed, which happens, we go back around and pick that up, and then today it'd be kind of a last-minute day if we've got something that really should have been addressed.
Mm-hmm. Watching the crews, they've got it down to a science.
Boy, don't they?
Yeah, it's really quick. I mean, they go up and down the streets, and you can tell they've done this a few times.
They have done it a few times, and they're good at it, and they do a good job.
It's farther down our list today, but I thought I'd bring it up now because it was one of the proclamations you issued on Monday night about Public Service Recognition Week. Sometimes we don't say thanks to the people who are out there doing the day-to-day work for government, other public entity type organizations, and I know there's always those that criticize what's done no matter what is done, and you do put up with a little bit of that, but
sure.
I guess in total your message on that week is what?
Well, my message is that we have a lot of dedicated people that work for the city of Beatrice, and it's not just the city of Beatrice. Let's face it, we've got a lot of people at NGage County that do a great job, and they're here to serve the people, and they do the best they can. And at the end of the day, if you look at a lot of the jobs, at least at the city side and the BPW side, a number of them have even a little bit of risk to it. In public safety, I think you certainly know that police and fire have a risk, but when you think about it, you've got the electric company who's dealing with a lot of power. When you're working on the streets, things can happen. And so, they're doing the best that they can, and they do a great job. So my message is basically thank you for what they do for the city of Beatrice.
Yeah. A lot of public agencies, too, we were talking about storms at the top of the hour, too. They're out lots of times in those, either in the aftermath of one and the cleanup of it, or maybe just helping to warn people, or
Yes.
being out there kind of watching for things that happen. And so that's another part of it.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
Maybe just a quick update, since you drive by that on the way to wherever you're going each day, 13th Street. Of course, we had the rain recently,
Right.
a couple of solid rainfall, which we did need, but how's that going so far?
I think it's going pretty well. They've been working on the intersections, taking a section at a time, so the intersections stay open on Beaver and Oak, and the east side of 13th Street looks like it's completely poured, and I think they were tearing up the other side, or I might have those two reversed.
Oh, okay. West side was poured first, and
right,
then go to the
and
east
then
side.
the east side. So yeah, I think Tuesday, I think a lot of chunks of concrete got hauled out of there. So I think they're doing really well. I think, as far as I know, they're on schedule, or maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. And it looks like they're really, from what I know, I'm not in that business, but from what I know, it looks like they're doing a really good job.
I don't know if you've taken a look at it. I haven't been out there for a while to take a look at it, but the way that you're getting traffic in and out of those residential areas back on so they can exit out of there, is there like a temporary road, or is that poured first, or how is that working there?
Well, what we did first is we did the one side, and we made the second side, the east side, one way. And so it went you go basically from north to south, from Beaver up to Oak. That allowed you to get into all the neighborhoods there. And then, there's probably a little bit of temporary road now that we're working on the east side that goes over to the west. So the west side's done and drivable. Yeah. And so that becomes the one way that comes up from Beaver to Oak. Okay. And then, the intersections, you got to be careful because, you've got basically one lane. And from what I've seen, the citizens have done a really good job as you look ahead and figure out when it's going to be your turn.
Yeah.
And they've done a nice job.
Yeah. And probably it would be nice to give yield to the people who live there, because they're putting up with the inconvenience. So if you see somebody coming down,
yep,
clear out for
absolutely
them and do that. That would be good. So,
absolutely.
There's a lot of traffic out there to homes and the golf course and everything, and events and things.
Right.
Got to put up with it for a while. A little bit of patience to work around some areas. But
I think the project was supposed to take about 100 days. We must be in about day 30, 35. Yeah. So we're getting to that halfway point. So that's good.
It'll really be nice when it's completed. It might even take some pressure off of Oak Street, the asphalt there, which is a heavily traveled going to the golf course area. You'll have a new street to go on, and so maybe there'll be a few more people take that path instead.
There very well could be, and at the end of the day, like we said on that project, the base underneath the concrete was just completely gone. And so now that road should give us 60 plus years of service.
Yeah. Just like 4th Street between Lincoln and Grant.
That's right.
And then from Lincoln on up to 5th Street or whatever.
Yep.
So, back with more on Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan in just a moment. You're listening to Ask the Mayor today with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Monday night, the City Council approved the bid of Constructors Incorporated on the Lincoln Street and the 33rd and Lincoln Street work, which is kind of interesting, kind of sounds like we'll be getting underway a little bit earlier than I think everybody kind of thought.
Yes, I think it was a pleasant surprise when constructors were talking about maybe starting in June, which is really good. Because if you think about it, that whole project's going to be, if you laid out the numbers that we talked about at City Council, it's going to be done in 3 phases. 2 of the phases, it looks like, are going to be 4 months long each, and then we have a little shorter one of about 2 or 3 months. So 4 and 4 and 3 is 11.
A 9-month, 10-month project or so to get it all done. So
the hard part will be is, we do have to worry about winter and Mother Nature. If we get a good winter, there's a good chance that we'll get a lot of it done. But, if it's one of those winters where it starts settle in November 15th, then we'll have to come back and pick it up and finish in the spring.
Some, again, we go back to social media, but some have made the point that, well, why wasn't all the street work done faster ahead of time. Well, it really didn't work out that way because you had two jurisdictions with different roles in this. You had the school being built.
Right.
And of course, then there is infrastructure needed for that. So that may be one of the reasons.
I think one of the big issues that happened was because we engaged in conversations with the school early because we knew we needed to get this project done. Mm-hmm. But I think also, when you buy a piece of ground, you got to figure out where to locate the building. And I think it took them a while to figure out the best spot for the building, which is prudent. And at the end of the day, you can't really put the road in until you know where the building is actually going to set. And so once the determination of where the building was going to be set, then we had the opportunity to go through, an engineer to design it. And one of the things that I've found in a number of my previous lives of helping with buildings is by the time you get the architects and the engineers in there, that can be a 9-month project or even longer because you want to make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
And then we went ahead and put in the infrastructure, water mains and those type of things in before we want to put the road down, because the last thing you want to do is take a $2.3 million project and then tear up the concrete because you're going to put in a new water main or sewer.
Yeah.
And so by the time you put all those things together, it just takes time.
The way the project is being phased, you're taking kind of the middle part of it first, the south part of it second, or from the intersection south.
Right.
And then the one farthest west after that. A couple of things come into play as it seems there. Of course, the school traffic,
right.
But you also have a big church
Correct.
in that area.
Correct.
Is that both of those kind of factored in?
Absolutely.
To the schedule?
Absolutely. So if you look at Christ Community Church, they have a couple entrances. Mm-hmm. One entrance will remain open during the first phase, but then at the last phase, that entrance will be closed. They'll have to use the other entrance. So it's all factored in to try to accommodate everybody, even in the neighborhood. There's a number of housing, nice houses there, and we just wanted to take everything into account and try to phase it the best we can. Was it perfect? No, probably not. Will there be a little bit of inconvenience? At times there absolutely will.
Well, kind of a tricky project, though, because you got a state institution there, you have homes, you have a public school institution, then you have a religious organization, all packed into one real close spot there, plus a neighborhood nearby. So.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so we're doing the best we can. I was very pleased with the bid, and I'm very pleased that we've got I think a quality contractor, and I'll be anxious to watch it get started.
One you're familiar with, too. Constructors
Yes.
has done a lot of work in
Absolutely.
the Beatrice area. On the intersection of 33rd and Lincoln, it was interesting to me that you don't, because of the way you're going to shift it a little bit, southwest, you really don't need to grab more right-of-way, or very little.
That is correct. We really don't impact the houses, and we purposely, actually the school and the city purposely tried to make sure we designed it so that it was the least heartache for the homes there and the business. Whispering Springs is there too. And so at the end of the day, we tried to keep all that into account.
Yeah. By the way, I went through a couple of roundabouts in Lincoln yesterday, and
I
came out in one piece. So
oh, excellent!
I feel pretty good. So
well, yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like I said before. It's the only way to get that minute traffic moving through, and it's low maintenance because we don't have to worry about a stoplight.
True. And when school starts, I'm sure for a while there will be maybe a little bit of adjustment, just getting used to the traffic going to a different place. But
sure, there will. Absolutely.
Probably will last a week, and everybody will say, that wasn't all that bad. So
right,
so maybe.
Once we get through it, that initial start and stop, it will become just like a routine.
Yeah. Speaking of schools, interesting project that Hoppe and Sons LLC is going to be working on, acquiring one of the old school properties, the Stoddard Elementary property. Did that come about pretty quickly? Did you know that was coming, or was there some discussion about that ahead of time, or was that kind of
we've been working on it for probably 4 months, but no, when we worked with the school to try to figure out the best way to take care of the 4 elementaries, it was not on the radar screen. Hoppe and Sons are the same people that are working on the Kensington building, and I think they really felt like that was going to be some of their housing project, but if they could also have a senior housing project, then you have a better opportunity to possibly have some staffing that are coming down here for more than just one building. I think we feel, well, I know I feel very fortunate that they wanted and had interest in the Stoddard Elementary School. It will be senior housing, and they had some examples of other places that they've rehabbed buildings for senior housing, and quite honestly, it's going to give that old building a look that you won't probably even recognize, and they'll do a nice job. And like I said, when I look at it, all the apartments or the senior living units are going to have their own outside entrance, so that if you think about that building, how that's just going to change the complexity of that building, and what a great opportunity to rehab one of those buildings.
So they're not tearing it down; they're refurbishing what's already there.
That is correct.
Making the changes. So.
Yep.
Okay. As far as the property that was, you're retaining some property on the south side.
Right.
How does it also work on, since they're keeping the building, and the north side of it, maintaining some right-of-way there in case you do expand Scott Street in the future? Does that mean that the building itself shifts a little bit south, or what, in the refurbishing, or?
It might. Yeah. I mean, they're going to keep the footprint as much as they can right there. They didn't really, I mean, there wasn't an issue. They felt like they had enough space right there. I think, what is it, the south is kind of there's Ames Street that doesn't go through.
It's kind of a T intersection there.
So it's the south part of there from Ames down.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, there's a number of opportunities there for, it could be a park, it could be future other housing opportunities, but it's going to be a nice partnership with Hoppe and the city.
It's kind of roughly about half of that playground, and then south of there, then, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back to wrap up Ask the Mayor in a moment with Mayor Bob Morgan on KWBE. About 10 minutes left on our program today on Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan. One of the other things at the council meeting Monday night was a new agreement with Gage Area Growth Enterprise known as NGage, and that would start July 1st.
Yes. It's a 3-year contract. It's the same contract that we've done with NGage for, goodness gracious, probably 9 years now.
Yeah.
And, NGage is our economic development corporation, for lack of a better word, called, and they do a good job. And if you're going to grow your city and attract businesses, you really do need that arm for economic development. And where it sits outside of, it's really heavily supported by the county and the city. I think it's $150,000 a year are committed from both the county and the city. I should say up to $150,000. So, if they don't spend that, they don't pocket the rest of that. So it's one of those reimbursable expenditures. Rachel is doing a good job. She's been with us, for a couple of years. And, just like an event that happened last Friday, you see Jimmy John's coming to Beatrice. And I know there's a lot of people happy about that we're going to have another restaurant opportunity there. And, NGage was involved in that. And they're involved in a number of recruitment opportunities for business and industry. Yeah. And if you don't have them, it's pretty hard to get the job done. So we're glad that we have a partnership again and renewed for another 3 years.
You mentioned the reimbursement type formula with this agreement between the city and county. Has it worked out pretty well, or is that, from a cash flow standpoint for the organization itself, is that easy enough to deal with where they can get the things done they want to get done?
Yeah, I don't think there's been a problem with that at all. I think that's worked pretty smooth. So, at the end of the day, expenses are reviewed, and again, there are some expenses that aren't reimbursable. And I also know they have membership, so that membership funds will carry over and pay for those expenditures. Probably the simplest one is with city money, state money, or county money. If they have an event and alcohol is served, no city money will go to pay for that portion of their event.
I see. Okay. Go back to, and we moved one up early in the schedule, but the proclamations you issued this week. Another one was on Teacher Appreciation Week, and you, having been in education and know a little bit, or more than a little bit about that, it's another group that doesn't hurt to say thanks to once in a while.
That is correct. Yeah. That is correct. This is their Teacher Appreciation Week. think they've had a number of activities. And no, I mean, when you think about it, thank goodness we have people that are willing to step up and get a good education and then bring that education back and teach our young people.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
It's just amazing. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I have always said that I'm glad that I taught at the college level. I don't know if my patience level at the elementary school would have worked out very well.
You like that older crowd just a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I like that, and they're not charged with having to be there.
Yeah.
They make a choice to come to school, and so as you go through school, if you're one that doesn't like school but you have to be there, it's hard to try to engage people that might not want to be there.
And the willpower and the stamina to be in that business, we've seen just this year, but it happens every year too. You see a lot of longtime teachers, administrators retiring after 20, 30, 40 years of being in that role, where at one point you may have just been a teacher, but now you're part teacher, part parent, part bus driver, part counselor. There's a little bit of everything thrown in.
There is, and they work hard.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're very appreciative of them, and I think I said there's a number of events that have happened, and that's good. One of the things that we didn't get to do was Mayor for the Day.
Yeah, that's right.
We had a little challenge with the weather, and I think a good call to not have the
that probably was
elementary kids there when you have a storm moving in. But that's moved to June 3rd, I believe, and so that's always a fun day for me.
Yeah.
You get the youngsters in there that have gone out and earned their right to be Mayor for the Day.
Well, one thing is kind of a custodial thing that you do each year is you give approval to the Chamber of Commerce and groups like that. Main Street, I think the animal shelter on Monday night too for an event they have coming up. But to use city property and right of way for things like Homestead Days and close off US 136 for the parade.
Yep.
They're kind of quick actions on the consent agenda, but they are important to make sure things go forward.
They are important and they are necessary. Anytime that you're going to shut down a highway, you have to work with, of course, the State Department of Transportation. And, there's other projects when anytime, you need to have, a street shut down. Perfect example, they put up the Christmas lights on all the downtowns. So if you're going to shut down a street, you have to get permission, because you're going to involve basically the decision, is it good from the police department, from the fire department, and then from the city. So it helps us keep track of what we need to shut down and route traffic around appropriately.
And there's for the sale of goods on public parks and things like that. So another branch of that that you approve each year. To wrap up today, we have an election coming up next Tuesday. I look around at some of the counties, and there's not a lot on the primary, and most races are moving on, but this year's kind of different for Gage County a little bit. City of Beatrice has, 2 races?
We do, Ward 1 and 3.
That are, contested, 3 running in each, as I understand, 2 to go on.
Right.
County Board's got a couple of races that a lot of candidates going on. It's just one of those years when you have more than the usual interest, I guess.
Well, and I think that's good. I mean, if you think about, it's the democratic process. I think it's wonderful. One of the things I'm surprised about is I haven't seen as many signs out.
Yeah, I wondered about that too myself. Of course, we've been sort of looking at furniture on sides and things like that. But yeah, it was, I don't know, maybe it's saving money.
Social media.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
other avenues that you didn't have, and for me, it's like, oh well, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe at the end of the day, at some point in time, you don't need all the campaign signs.
That could be, or maybe everybody's just saving their sign budget for November.
That could be that too.
Up. So,
one reminder.
Okay.
In the state of Nebraska, we are now on voter ID.
It's true.
So when you go to vote, if you haven't already got, I still go to vote, but a lot of people still haven't, they mail in their ballots or they go to the courthouse. Bring your ID. That'll allow you to vote, since we are a voter ID state.
I did the early voting thing, so they checked me with the DMV, and I guess I was all right. So no red flags turned up that I know of, so went ahead and did that. And you're right, for some people, they do like the traditional way of You go to the ballot box that day, and that's just the way you've always done it, and that's okay. For others with a busy schedule and, I got these other things going on that day, it is kind of nice to be able to have the option.
I guess I just haven't. I really don't even know how to get my ballot early and vote, so I just go and vote in person.
You reduce the number of steps involved in the process, though. What makes, just going into this, you have some new people that are trying for office. What makes a good public official in any elected capacity in your mind?
In my mind, whether it's the county or the city, I think the first thing is to really have the desire to be a good person to look out for the best interest of whether it's the city or the county. I think somebody that is running on a what do I want to call it?
Maybe a beef or a grudge, or
you'll be running for a beef or a grudge or an
yeah.
axe to grind. I think they'll find out real quickly that it may not be for them, because you really do have to commit to the time, and you have to try to do the best that you can. And some of the harder things, as I said on here, is you're not going to make everybody happy. And sometimes you're going to have friends that will come up to you and want to do something that's against an ordinance, and they're wondering why the ordinance is there and they can't do it.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is the answer is still no, because you have to always keep in mind that the decisions you have to make for the majority of the people and not one person.
The other thing too is, when I think maybe, and you see this maybe in first-time candidates, there's this kind of mentality, well, I'm going to change the way things go on, but you have to realize that you're working on a body, and you have to achieve a consensus too before you can get anything approved. So, and maybe that, I don't know that it's lost on people sometimes, but I think maybe that kind of gets shoved to the side.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the other thing is, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that you just can't impact, because they're between the resolutions and the ordinances and history, it's already in place.
Yeah.
And so we think it's going to be easy to change something, but it's not. There still is a process.
We'll see how it all goes next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm excited for the candidates.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they'll be ready to rest a little bit for the general.
Yep, that's for sure. Mayor, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you.